what Joker saw. You know what actually destroys a good person? It isn't hatred. It isn't even betrayal. It's the moment they realize they were only ever loved for what they tolerated. And the cruel part, most kind souls notice that far too late. They keep giving and giving and giving, hoping someone will finally turn around and say, "Thank you for bleeding for me." But people get used to your suffering. That's the ugly little secret no one tells you. Forgive too quickly, and they hurt you faster next time. Answer every call, and they stop respecting your time. Stay soft with cruel people, and they don't admire your heart for it. They study it, like wolves circling an open wound. Some of you were trained early to feel guilty for saying no. So you smile while something inside you quietly dies. You help while running on empty. You stay loyal to people who, somewhere deep down, enjoy watching you break. The world noticed something before you ever did. You made yourself too easy to reach, and people rarely protect what's always within arm's length. There are hearts so pure they apologize after being destroyed. Sorry for feeling pain. Not pathetic, just deeply wounded. But eventually even the kindest soul learns a brutal lesson. Mercy without boundaries becomes self-destruction. You know what years of being emotionally available to everyone does to a person? Your nervous system forgets what safety feels like. You start apologizing for things that were never your fault. You panic the moment someone goes quiet, because somewhere along the way, you became addicted to keeping other people comfortable, even at the cost of yourself. That's not kindness anymore. That's fear, wearing kindness like a mask. Some people were never loyal to you. They were loyal to your usefulness, your attention, your emotional labor. And the second you stop supplying those things, watch how fast their love evaporates. Painful, isn't it? Realizing you were treasured like a tool, not cherished like a soul. I've watched exhausted people answer messages while crying alone in the next room. Watch them help everyone else while quietly falling apart. Nobody talks enough about the anger that kind people carry. It exists, quiet, hidden, dangerous. Because every swallowed emotion goes somewhere. It doesn't disappear. Every forced smile, every humiliation tolerated just to keep the peace. And one day, the soul snaps, quietly, not loudly. It simply stops caring the way it used to. That's why some people suddenly go distant. Not because they turned cold-hearted, but because their heart finally got tired of begging for basic respect. You cannot heal in places where you're constantly required to abandon yourself just to be accepted. The world teaches harsh lessons, and one of the harshest is this: if you never protect your kindness, people will consume it until there's nothing left. And here's what's truly tragic. Some people notice your exhaustion and ask for more anyway. More patience, more chances, more pieces of your soul. That's why emotionally tired people go quiet. Not because they have nothing left to say, but because explaining your pain to selfish people eventually starts to feel humiliating. You start noticing the patterns. Who only resurfaces when they're lonely, who vanishes the moment you need help. And the loneliness shifts into something heavier. You realize you were surrounded by people, and still emotionally abandoned for years. Kindness is beautiful. Mercy is beautiful. But when you let people disrespect you repeatedly in the name of being good, you slowly teach them that hurting you has no consequences, and most human beings keep doing whatever costs them nothing. That's why boundaries matter, not to punish anyone, to protect whatever's left of you. Because a heart that gets wounded enough eventually changes its personality just to survive. It grows quieter, colder, harder to reach. Not because it stopped loving, because it finally understood that love without self-respect is just self-betrayal in disguise. So if your soul feels tired lately, if your kindness has started feeling more like exhaustion than peace, maybe your heart isn't asking you to give more. Maybe it's begging you to finally protect it. Some people will watch your spirit fade and still accuse you of changing because they benefited from the version of you that never complained, the one that kept quietly bleeding just to hold the relationship together. But healing changes people. Pain changes people, especially the kind ones. Because kind people don't break right away. They endure and endure until one small moment finally cracks something inside them for good. Sometimes it's just another unanswered message, another moment of feeling completely invisible. Here's the funny thing about emotional pain. People only respect it after your personality changes. Then they panic. Then they ask, what happened to you? What happened? You got tired. Tired of shrinking yourself so others could feel powerful. Tired of mistaking self-neglect for love. Some of you were never too emotional. You were simply carrying too much for too long without any real support. And eventually, the body reacts. You stop laughing the same, stop trusting the same. Because suffering in silence rewires the nervous system. It makes you alert, guarded, suspicious of warmth itself. But hear this clearly. Protecting yourself isn't becoming cruel. Saying enough doesn't make you the villain. It makes you aware that your soul deserves loyalty too. That your heart was never built to be everyone's emotional sacrifice. You know what kind people become after being hurt too many times. Experts at hiding the damage. They laugh normally, function normally, while carrying entire wars inside their chest that nobody can hear. Because kind people were trained to suffer gracefully, to stay polite while breaking. After years of this, the body gets heavy. Even happiness starts to feel exhausting, because the soul was never built to endlessly absorb disappointment. Some of you confuse self-sacrifice with love. You think enduring pain proves your loyalty. It doesn't. It only teaches people your boundaries can be ignored without consequence. And humans repeat whatever benefits them. That's why selfish people stay strangely comfortable around endlessly forgiving hearts. They already know you'll stay, after the apology, after the lies, after the neglect. The moment someone becomes certain you'll never leave, they stop fearing your absence entirely. That's where disrespect quietly begins to grow. A colder tone, less effort, longer silences. Until one day you realize you built a home inside people who never intended to protect you emotionally in the first place. And the saddest part? Some of you still blame yourselves. No. You are simply asking emotionally unavailable people for genuine care. And that almost always ends in pain. There comes a point in emotional exhaustion where the heart stops reacting loudly. No more begging, no more chasing. Just silence. Not because the love vanished, because the soul finally got too tired of humiliating itself for attention. Some of the saddest people alive spent years trying to become easier to love. Smaller, quieter, more patient. But cruel people don't stay because you suffer for them. They stay only as long as they're benefiting from you. And eventually, the kind person changes. Not into a monster, just into someone harder to reach emotionally. Someone who clocks manipulation faster. Because pain matures people in ugly, necessary ways. You start understanding that constant access to you is a privilege, not a right. So you stop answering instantly, stop trying to rescue everyone in your orbit. You get quieter, more protective of your inner world. And the people who once benefited from your lack of boundaries, they call this coldness. Of course they do. But deep down, you know the truth. You were never asking for too much. You were just asking the wrong people. So protect your softness. Protect your peace. Because this world will turn gentle hearts into emotionally numb ghosts if you let it. And sometimes the strongest thing a wounded soul can say isn't, "I hate you." It's simply, "I can no longer destroy myself trying to keep you." After enough disappointment, you stop expecting honesty, consistency, basic emotional safety from people. Not because you became bitter, but because experience taught you that most people protect their own convenience before they protect your feelings. Some of you became caretakers because no one took care of you emotionally when you needed it most. So now you overcompensate, saving everyone, fixing everyone, while quietly wishing someone would notice your pain without requiring an explanation first. Once you see those patterns clearly, who drains you, who manipulates your empathy, who only shows up needing comfort, you can't unsee them. And that changes a person permanently. You stop chasing closure from people committed to misunderstanding you. Because eventually, you understand something painful. Closure isn't always an apology. Sometimes closure is simply seeing the truth clearly enough to finally stop hurting yourself on purpose. And that truth burns, realizing some people only loved the access they had to you. And the moment you started protecting yourself, they called you difficult, cold, different. Of course they did. People get uncomfortable when they can no longer control your kindness. There's nothing noble about sacrificing your mental peace for people who repeatedly damage it. You deserve relationships where your nervous system can finally rest, where your presence is valued, not exploited. And if someone only appreciated you while you were overgiving, they never appreciated you. They appreciated the access. So stop apologizing for protecting your energy. Because sometimes the losses that hurt the most are actually rescues in disguise. After enough pain, you stop reacting instantly, not because nothing hurts anymore, but because your soul got tired of proving its wounds. You begin to understand that intentions matter far less than patterns. A person can say, "I care about you," while slowly draining the life out of your spirit. That's why emotionally exhausted people eventually isolate. Not because they hate people, because they've become genuinely afraid of handing their heart to the wrong hands again. Eventually, you stop trying to convince people to value you correctly. You start to understand that people reveal their priorities through consistency, not promises. Who checks on you when you disappear? Who stays kind even when they have nothing to gain from you? Those answers tell you everything. So if your energy changed recently, if you became quieter, more protective of your own heart, don't hate yourself for it. Your soul is adapting, and maybe that sadness you're carrying now isn't weakness. Maybe it's just grief. Grief for every time you abandoned yourself, trying to keep someone else comfortable. Eventually, you stop forcing closeness. Stop begging anyone to communicate properly. Because mature pain teaches you something heavy. If someone genuinely values your heart, you won't constantly feel emotionally unsafe around them. So if your heart feels different now, quieter, slower to trust, don't panic. Pain changes people. But awareness rebuilds them wiser. You're not required to destroy your own peace, proving your loyalty to anyone. Not every goodbye is a tragedy. Sometimes distance is the first genuinely healthy decision a wounded soul has made in years. Because real healing begins the moment self-respect finally speaks louder than attachment. Yours, watching them mistake your peace for distance, Joker.